Hello, my name is Peter Murphy, President and CEO of the Illinois Association of Park Districts. And today we're going to be doing our Park and Conservation Legends video series. And I'm so pleased today to be able to introduce to you and to speak with today Colette Kubiesa. Colette, welcome.
Thank you, Peter. Glad to be here.
So, Colette, you had served the Elmhurst Park District for more than 15 years, first elected in 2000, and then you became a member of the IAPD Board of Trustees in 2002, and served for 9 years on the Board of Trustees, becoming the chairperson in 2009. I think during that time you served on almost every committee, and so you've got great involvement not only on the state, but I know the national level as well. And so it's a pleasure to be here with you today. You're a little unique as a park commissioner because you have a bachelor's degree in Parks and Recreation Administration, and also worked in the Park District field for 20 years prior to becoming a commissioner. So you have a great perspective. I'm excited to talk to you today about it. Wanted to start just by saying, how would you describe yourself?
First of all, I was elected in 1997, so I served 18 years in Elmhurst. But I know the numbers all roll together, but that's okay.
No, 18 years makes
18,
a difference.
It does,
Absolutely.
It does.
19, that's
especially in
important.
the eyes of my children. But so that kind of follows into why I did start my involvement. After I had my fourth child and was working professionally, I felt it was time to kind of take care of my family a little better, but I wanted to give back to my community. Mm-hmm. And the timing was just right. And that's how I became elected to Elmhurst, and just great things happened, not only for me, the Park District, my family, and throughout the state was what kept me going and wanted to keep giving back.
So an amazing time to be involved. So at your very first thought about being a commissioner, what did you think that you'd want to do it for?
One of the first things I thought was for my family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at the time my fourth one was an infant, and we were great users of the Park District system in Elmhurst as it was, and going to other park districts as well.
Sure.
With the family, you're always looking for wonderful things, and our park districts here in the state of Illinois have wonderful opportunities and offerings for any size budget, family budget, or however you want to look at it. And like I said, when the option arose at the Elmhurst Park District, 3 incumbents were not running, and I felt it was the perfect time because they were doing a good job, and I always had the feeling that you don't bump someone out if they're doing a good job. So it was a perfect timing to run as a non-incumbent into a new position. And one of the first and foremost things was for my family. And one of the things I always would say, when the children were little, they would cry sometimes when I'd be going out to a meeting or don't go. And I always say, I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this for you to make our parks and our community a better place for you in the future and for your children. That's one of the things I've always said to my family. And as the children grew older, they now understand it. Matter of fact, my 24-year-old son stated that he would like to perhaps run for park board now.
Really?
Yes.
Well, that's
so
wonderful.
I said, well, we'll have to see if there's still signs in the attic, you know.
I'm sure there are.
Yes, yes. So that made me feel really,
sure.
really good to have one of them say that. I mean, all my children have become involved in different ways, but that kind of really brought it full circle.
Well, they really grew up with your service as a park board member, and so I'm sure you had them involved in park district activities and a lot of sports and arts and a variety of things that the Elmhurst Park District, which is one of the top park districts in the state of Illinois, has to offer. You have an interesting perspective, 18 years as a park board member. What would you say is a good philosophy for a park commissioner to have?
I believe a good philosophy is to go in totally open-minded, open heart, open mind, big eyes, big ears, and listen and learn for the first probably 2 years of your term. It takes a long time to understand, even when you think you understand or know what's happening, to find the pulse of the community. So I feel the philosophy is to watch, learn, and listen, or listen, watch, listen, and learn. Mm-hmm. because it's not what you think it is. And once you understand the nuances, I think then the pieces all come into place and
Sure.
you put things together.
Well, the scope of a park district is so large. A lot of people that are in the public don't understand that. They think maybe it's sports, but it's so much more than sports as you look at the dimension of things.
You're
offered.
correct. One of the things I've been saying the last few years is we are a business now. We need to be run like a business. There is a lot of competition, as you know, when you started into this years ago, and even when I started with my first job in the field, things were way different. There wasn't competition such as many of the private health clubs or even private sporting companies that offer, a lot of the sports type activities or gymnastics gyms or even the dance studios. And not so much that we have to compete with these different organizations. Healthy competition is good, but we do need to run them like a business. Mm-hmm. We're tax supported. We need to take care of our constituents' finances and do the best we can for them. So it just needs to be put out there for folks to see that we know what we're doing but have fun and give people a good bang for their buck.
Sure. Well, I think we have become, as park districts, more entrepreneurial. Certainly the tax cap
Yes.
in the collar counties
Yes.
and in Cook County, when that first came in 1991, really gave people pause because their tax rate couldn't grow more than the consumer price index, which has historically been very, very low. And so you had to really look at different options. And I think park districts are really in an interesting position because as you look to be more entrepreneurial, you still have to be a public service agency.
Yes, you do.
So.
Be responsible for the dollars you have at hand. But maybe entrepreneurial-wise, look into some partnerships with businesses who support our missions as well.
Kind of tying into the last question I asked you, I know that as a board member on the IAPD Board of Trustees, you've met a lot of new commissioners when they just were brand new. And so what advice would you give a brand new commissioner? Just won the election in April for the first time.
Some advice I'd give would be back to my answer of some of the philosophy to listen. Let yourself be mentored. Let the commissioners that sit on your current board kind of show you the ropes. Get involved with IAPD. Let them help you. There's many tools available for new commissioners as well as seasoned commissioners. But as a new commissioner, again, it can be very overwhelming. Like I said, you might think you know what's going on, and until you get in there and find out what's happening. I'll give a quick example.
Sure.
The year I got elected, I got on board with two other wonderful gentlemen. And one of the commissioners, the newly elected man, one of the things he was so incensed on was he thought the grass should be cut more in the parks. And Elmhurst has over 400 acres of parkland, and he couldn't understand why the grass wasn't cut when he thought it should be cut. Like when you cut your yard at home.
Right.
Oh, it needs to be cut. I'll run out with the mower. Within a month, he understood the mowing system, why they're mowed, how they're mowed, budget-wise. Our Parks Department was able to show him, the computerized logs and how everything is set up to do the way it's done. And he did a complete 180, but he listened. He stopped, he asked his questions, and he allowed his questions to be answered. So that brings it back to where listen, ask questions, listen.
Sure.
Don't come in and try to change things because there's reasons for why things happen.
There's a science to a lot of the
science,
things that people
absolutely.
are
There's
doing
a
in park
science,
districts,
yes.
for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, both with that and recreational programming
Yes.
as well.
So that's just an example.
That's a great example.
That one always comes to mind. And this commissioner was a big teddy bear of a guy, and he thought he was going to come in and grab the bull by the horns, and he was not knocked down, but he was graceful and humble in how he accepted the answers, and I think that's
Well,
important.
and kudos to him, because if you hear the answer and it is rational and makes sense, then to be able to accept it and to move on to another issue that you'd like to see
Yeah.
addressed is really, I think, the hallmark of a good board member.
Yes, yes.
And so, that he brought a lot of
He did,
leadership in
he
that
did.
capacity
Yes,
as
he
well.
did.
That's great. One of the things we get in a conversation about is delivery systems of parks and recreation. And you look at the nation and their special districts throughout the United States, but really the predominant form for delivering park and recreation services in a state like Illinois is park districts, which are
Yes.
special districts. Do you think that having a park district serve the park and recreation needs of a community is more efficient than having the municipality do it?
I personally do, probably because that's what we're ingrained in and brought up in. But it's interesting when you do go to like the National Park Conference and you talk to people who are from the department system, and they seem to be in awe of what we're able to do in our systems. I do like to use analogies a lot of times, and one of the analogies I always use to folks is if we were a department, the park director would be on the same line as the police chief, the fire chief, the public works chief. So you're scheduled to get a new playground this summer, and the fire truck breaks down. What do you think's going to happen? You're not going to get your playground. You're going to, because understandably so. Safety is first for your community.
Sure.
So the beauty of it for being our own entity, the park district. If we need the playground, we're going to get our playground because it's not competing with anything else. We're collecting our own tax dollars. We're responsible for our tax dollars. And all that the park district and the board has to focus on is the mission at hand and fun, safety, open space, and providing a service of
Sure.
of fun, so to speak. So for us, I'm glad we have this system, but I don't downplay departments,
Sure.
because that's the way things have come
Well, there's
through.
a certain advantage to a single focus, if you will.
Yes.
I mean, the mission of park districts is broad, but still to have a single focus of park and recreational opportunities for a community
Absolutely.
seems to me to relate directly to quality of life and directly to the desire of people to live in a community
Yes.
because you have a great park system.
Right, and the park and recreation system focuses on that. They don't have to worry about roads and electric and stoplights and
Sure.
that sort of thing. And it's kind of been proven. I mean, here in DuPage County several years ago with our forest preserve, county board forest preserve, it was all one, and they made the split about 12 years ago. So the county board focuses on county board issues such as roads
Sure.
and whatnot, and the forest preserve deals with the forest preserve. They don't have to deal with
Those other
the other
issues.
issues. Whereas in the past for them, it was
Which hat are you wearing?
yeah,
at the
absolutely.
time?
And I remember having a conversation with one of the commissioners at the time when it was all one. They were arguing with themselves about a road that was going to be put through a forest preserve, and they were which hat did they have on
Right.
that day? Did they want the road going through their own preserve or not? And shortly after is when it started the change to have separate entities.
That's very interesting. The other thing I think that's interesting is that a lot of people don't realize that when you're planning a playground, it's just not something that's spontaneous that pops up at a
Right.
park board meeting. You're really working on 3 to 5 year maintenance and infrastructure
Yes.
plans in a community like Elmhurst, aren't you?
Yes, Elmhurst is fortunate to have developed, probably 18 or 19 years ago, a playground replacement system. So every year, one playground gets done, and it's on the cycle. And we'll have folks in the neighborhood saying, when's my playground? And we can show them when that playground will happen.
Sure.
So the playground that gets done this year now will be at the bottom, not at the bottom of the list, but it goes back onto the cycle. So 18 years or so, they'll get a new playground in that particular park again.
Which really makes a lot of sense, because as you look at the trends in even playground development, they've changed dramatically, from surfacing to make it safer for children to the type of amenities and play stations that allow people with disabilities also to participate that were precluded before.
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
That's just a
Yes,
very smart philosophy
It
to
is,
follow.
and the other thing that the Elmhurst Park District does is when a playground is going to go into a neighborhood, a new playground, a redo, remake, redo, we hold community meetings in that neighborhood. Ask the folks what they want, take their ideas, put them together. Our staff has their ideas.
Sure.
And perhaps a theme, and every playground kind of is like a different theme, so it's different. So you can go different parks. Every day you could take your child to a different park if you chose.
Well, that's great.
For different theming, but they do 2 community meetings. The first one is to gather input, second one is to bring it back and say, this is what we heard you ask for. The architects, landscape architects, put that all together, and then they bring those to the park board, and it'll usually be A, B, and C choices, and the board will choose one, or sometimes the Elmhurst board will say, okay, I like something from A, I like something from B. And the reason they have usually 3 choices now is because we usually would take something from each and make our own third
Sure.
choice, but the community gets to have input on that as well.
That's fantastic.
So, and we've also started to have a little ribbon cutting when the playground opens. Didn't used to do that, but those children are so anxious, and we learned from the first one, it was a playground across the street from a grade school, so we did the ribbon cutting at 8 a.m. before school started. And it was packed.
I bet it was
And
packed.
the mothers had to drag the kids off to go to school.
Now you have to go to school. Kids.
Yes, but what we learned from that is, the old kind of, if they build it, they will come philosophy, and give the children a little bit of a little trinket to take home. And
That's great.
it's fun.
That is fun.
Yeah.
That is fun. Now you're in a unique position, a degree in Parks and Recreation. Worked in Parks and Recreation for about 20 years before becoming a board member, and also the Elmhurst Park District has some just amazing leaders as directors and other staff people. And so one of the things that would be interesting, I think, is to really hear from you what kind of attributes you think a good Park District director should have.
I think a good Park District director, one needs to be a people person, and not have a short fuse. Understand, again, listen, understand, not be the person that always thinks that their answer is the right answer. That's why there are staffs on bigger districts. A smaller district, that sometimes the director has to be the chief cook and bottle
Sure.
washer, plow the snow as well as line the ball field and do the budget. But in a bigger district, a good director will have a good staff in place, and they all do the heavy lifting together. And the director also needs to be a good spokesperson in the community, because if the community doesn't get on board with who the staff is, and our communities have gotten much more vocal over the past several years, I think part with social media coming into play. And that's not a bad thing, but if folks don't like something, they're going to let you know about it. And you have to have a director that is politically savvy is not the correct word I'm looking for, but be able to put the scope of the whole situation together, investigate staff, community, be out there even doing fundraising, be a member of the elite, so to speak, of who's who in the community. They don't necessarily have to live in the community, I don't think, but I have the pulse on everything between the school district, the city or village, and work
Sure.
cohesively with everyone.
Well, as a community leader, as a park director, you really are a community leader, so you really need to interface with
Yes.
the municipality and the school district to see where the synergy is for exchanging ideas
Yes.
on programming and shared facilities and things like that.
Yes.
So that is a good
And-
point you make.
And with intergovernmental agreements, many of us have developed over the past several years excellent intergovernmental agreements between our schools and our cities, villages, such as garage sharing spaces or parks sharing spaces or parking lots or gyms at schools. And if you don't have a director or leader who's able to work with those other entities, it's not going to happen.
I think that's one of the neat things about park districts is it's not a silo, that you're
Right.
really networking with everybody, even your other professionals in the state of Illinois.
Yes, yes.
For shared ideas and things of that nature. It's great. What do you think some of the problems are that are facing park districts at this time?
Budget, not so much from the state of Illinois' side, but it's a over-encompassing budget reasons with perhaps folks are not still real secure with their jobs. I don't mean the park people that work for the park district, but your community. You know, it still, to me, still seems volatile, and the tax dollars are there, but you just don't know year to year if your taxes, the tax money is going to come in as what you've projected on your budgeting. And we don't have to rely on sales tax, but the kind of the side note on sales taxes, if folks aren't in your community and shopping in your community, you're not going to have as big of an insurge of folks being in your community
Right.
to partake in some of your things, or even have the ability of your city or village to assist you with other things if they're not getting their sales tax dollars.
Sure.
So budget is one, and I also think that the demographics, it's very hard to project depending on your community, on what's going to happen with you're going to have little children, older children, seniors, like for
Sure.
example Elmhurst. Elmhurst, I believe, I'm not sure if I'm correct on this still, but at one point Elmhurst had the largest senior population in DuPage County.
Wow.
But they don't want to be called seniors,
Well, no.
as most of us don't, won't want to. But so that's very difficult to see who's going to program for what. And again, in like a community like Elmhurst, our Elmhurst, Downers Grove, Lombard, we're all landlocked, so there's nowhere else for us to go.
No new parkland on the
parkland,
horizon, right?
and if our programs continue to grow, where are we going to put them, even for indoor type programs?
Sure.
And because of budgeting, and folks, like a few years ago, we started a thing, a lot of folks did, the staycations. You know, people couldn't afford to travel or
So
weren't traveling, so
right.
we want to have much more offerings at home in our park system. And many of the park districts did that, and to pretty good success. But to continue to do those programs and activities, we need locations and spaces.
Yeah.
And but
Well,
I think
that will be a continuing
it
challenge.
will challenge, but it starts at the top, I think, with budgeting and.
Sure. So it's interesting, demographics is an interesting question, and I know that that's something that the park districts look at frequently, maybe not annually, but on some type of a 2 or 3 year roll to be able to anticipate the changes in the programmatic activity that they offer. Because you're offering something totally different to seniors than you are to younger families. And the interesting thing I think about park districts is you offer, it's kind of a cradle to grave business because you're offering to very young people, and you want seniors to be able to come out of their homes and interact with other seniors in a very positive way. So that demographic shift is something I think that will always be kind of a challenge, but something that's I think on the radar screen of most park districts in the state.
It's not going to go away.
Right.
It's not going to go away. And as the seniors continue to live older, and we want them to stay active.
You bet.
But the 55 or 60-year-old wants to be much more active than perhaps an 80 or 85-year-old. And same thing with the cradle type issues with, like when you and I started, it probably was one parent at home. Now we're finding more and more there's both are working, and so do park districts step up and pick up the ball with much more, maybe going into infant care, or is that left to a different sector? And I think each district will decide and determine what's best for them. And again, they're meeting their needs. I know in Elmhurst, there's been a big push for all-day kindergarten in our school district. And it's more and more folks, matter of fact, I just read an article yesterday, how the moms are on the Facebook, I call it the Facebook, my kids will laugh now. But all-day kindergarten, there is no room in the school buildings to have all-day kindergarten, so it's not feasible.
Sure.
So is that something that a park district could perhaps pick up and offer a one area load all-day kindergarten for all the kids that would like to do it in that community and have it at one location? I mean, those kind of things, again, to think outside the box and having your administrators work together.
Absolutely. Well, and then, of course, the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta, Georgia, identified the hours from 3 to 7 o'clock at night as being kind of the most perilous for young people because they get involved sometimes in drugs and alcohol. Teen pregnancy happens in a large disproportionate way during those hours. So park districts really fill that space when you don't have a parent at home that child has to check in with necessarily.
Yes, yes.
So it's an interesting shift. It's interesting to me, you've been involved heavily in IEPD committees and on a statewide basis in a lot of different ways. What would be something you'd say to a commissioner about the value of being involved in IEPD?
IEPD is just a wealth of knowledge and opportunity, and I would urge any commissioner to, once you get your feet wet on your own park board, give it the 2 years like I suggested, to start getting involved with just a committee to start. There's just such a wealth of knowledge of networking. I mean, even just start by make sure you go to all the offerings that the association offers. The annual conference in January, the legislative update, the legal symposium. Just the opportunity to network with another commissioner who, when you think, especially when you have maybe troubles at your board table, and you might think I'm the only one that's experienced it, and you're going to find out that almost everybody in that room has had some kind of issue like that at some point.
Sure.
Or they want to hear your story and how things are working for you and your district. So you start with going to the the offerings, and then you'll get more involved to see what committees are available. And again, the committees, to me, was just, I've met wonderful friends throughout this state and nation as well, because some of the early committees were.
I've heard of that. I've heard about that from a number of people that I've talked to.
Nationwide committees.
And you have lifelong friendships with people throughout Illinois that you never thought you'd even know.
And back to social media, networking or social media, it helps to stay involved with that aspect, because you might not think of picking up your old telephone to call someone, but you might shoot an email or a text, hey, I'm in town, are you available for lunch, or what have you, who's going to be around, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. But I really, what you can bring back to your home district is just, to me, invaluable. And your district is proud. It puts your district, it gives your district a notch up as well, your involvement. With my involvement, it was really, I'm humble, and I believe I'm humble on what I say. I don't like to have accolades, etc. But I was proud to represent the Elmhurst Park District when I was on IAPD board, and folks thought that was pretty neat to have someone from Elmhurst at the state level.
Sure. Well, and you did a pretty wonderful job.
Oh, thank you, thank you. But
the other question I have for you is, what advice would you give a 20-year-old?
A 20-year-old commissioner, or
just
a 20-year-old? Study hard, stay focused. Things always get better. You might think this is good now, but it's going to get better. And you don't want to look back and say, why did I do that? I have a 19-year-old now, so.
Hey, a lot of us have had 19-year-olds.
Stay focused and move forward.
What do you think your major contribution has been to Parks and Recreation?
Oh boy, Peter.
I have to, you have to toot your own horn a little bit.
Yes, I do. Well, it's been a lot of contributions, but I just feel it's all been in the course of a day. I mean, I was proud of being able to work on the bill to get the tax cap
Adjusted so that the bonding
yes, the
ability
bonding
could come
authority.
back to park districts.
That was a lot of work, and it wasn't for me. It was for several park districts, Elmhurst Park District being one of them, and that kind of was what spurred me and pushed me to, again, be a better commissioner, again, be a better person for my community and for everyone that would enjoy a park system.
Sure.
And I learned so much. So I thanks to you and your staff, it was a wonderful time in my life to be able to do that. And it was also one of the times when I had kids crying at the door.
Saying, where are you going?
Where are you going?
Yeah.
Please don't leave, when the suitcase stayed at the front door. But
Well, that was an important time, I think, for park districts, because what the public doesn't realize is how capital intensive they are. You have to maintain what you have, and you have to make sure that you can keep facilities in top shape into perpetuity. So that capital funding was an important legislative issue, and I do know that you came down to Springfield on a number of occasions and talked to members of the General Assembly about how important your capital needs were. And they not only the capital needs of the Elmhurst Park District, but just as an issue for park districts statewide. And it made a difference.
it did. But it was, again, teamwork. I mean, it was, you know, the old saying, there's no I in team. It was, we all worked together, and it paid off. And many of us are in better position now, as opposed to if that wouldn't have happened. Like you said, for infrastructure, and now we're seeing some of that again with the budget issues at the state level right now for folks that have put in for some big projects. And it was very compelling a few months ago to hear some of the stories, and that's important. We have to continually speak up and tell our stories.
Sure. Well, grants from the state do make a difference in leveraging local dollars. As you mentioned, I think you get, there's local philanthropy that takes place, but if there's a little bit of state money involved as a kind of to give it a boost or to give it some momentum, I think you get a bigger bang for your buck. And the great thing about the state's program, which is the OSLAD program, is that it's an investment of state dollars, but what's built locally is maintained into perpetuity by the local government. So the state of Illinois gets a big bang for its dollars with that. And so hopefully we'll see that program continue and become more vibrant after the state budget is resolved. So we're looking forward to that as well.
Yes.
I know, because it's been a great program for a lot of park districts across the state of Illinois. What's the best advice somebody's ever given you?
Probably to stop and listen. Stop and listen. Sometimes I want to jump in on conversations really fast and speak my piece, as I'm sure you've heard me say and do. And it's been a challenge, and I've listened as best I could to tell people, be quiet, let them talk, stop, don't say anything, hear it all out. So it kind of comes full circle for me. That's why I give that advice.
That's good.
Back.
That's great. What do you think the benefits of Parks and Recreation are?
The benefits are endless. I mean, and that's a saying
that's
been a slogan somewhere. But boy, it's just health, welfare, enjoyment. You can get so much out of a park and recreation system, from taking a yoga class and relaxing, or signing up for a triathlon or a marathon, or going on a youth ski trip, or volunteering even in the gardens or the greenhouses, or at a special event. It's just, you can't do that anywhere else except in a park district.
It's interesting, sometimes the park district has the swimming pool in town, so children are really learning how to save their lives in the future by learning to swim at a park district pool.
Absolutely, yep.
When they're young. If money were unlimited, what would you like to see the Elmhurst Park District be able to do?
Unlimited would I like to see the Park District have more open space, green space, open space, and perhaps one really big community center type building that a lot of times they'd hear me talk about the one-stop shopping. And I think especially with the way families are now with having to go here and be so many places at one time, it would be a beauty if you could go to one center and you could take your exercise class, you could put your baby in the workout class, and your other kids could be in the ballet studio or even on the hockey rink or whatever.
Sure.
Everybody in one place.
Instead of having to drive 6 different places.
Yes, and especially if it's like a 45-minute class, and even if you're only 3 miles away, sometimes at 5 o'clock it takes 45 minutes. So you're dragging everybody up there anyway and sitting waiting for the one child. So if Elmhurst Park District were to someday have unlimited funds and the space to have a big, beautiful one-stop shopping building for the community would be wonderful.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I guess moms never knew that they were the original Uber drivers.
That's right. That's right. That's a good way to put it.
What do you think the future for Parks and Recreation in the state of Illinois is going to be?
I think future will be continue to offer awesome, excellent programming and maintain the facilities we do have, and the open space, the green space, the trail systems, especially here north of I-80. Like I said, we don't have the open space as much, so we need to continually maintain what we have and take good care of them. In the future, again, to stay on top of, again, the demographics and don't let that, we need to be ahead of the game. So the future needs to be, and to follow trends, would be a trendsetter.
That's great. So 18 years of service as a park board member, I can't even imagine how many meetings, ribbon cuttings, and committee meetings you've gone to. Being on the IAPD board and being the chair in 2009, which is a tremendous personal accomplishment. Being involved in the National Recreation and Park Association as you have been. How would you like to be remembered as a park commissioner?
Just as a lady and a mom who cared about her community and future, and to leave the world and the park system in a better place for everyone.
Well, that's great. Well, this has been a wonderful opportunity to talk to you. I knew it would be a wonderful
thanks,
opportunity, just because of your commitment to just the field of parks and recreation, as being a professional in it as well as an elected commissioner. So thank you very much. It's a great honor to be able to talk with you today about
Thanks
it.
for having me, Peter.
Absolutely.